Are we good now?
Yeah, we're good.
Perfect, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen. And we want to give a big shout out to our friends at Macy's Baybrook Mall who outfit us with a new outfit every single week. And so if you have not had an opportunity to go call my friend Michael Haddock with our My Stylist services at Baybrook Mall, they can get you ready for your next special event. So be sure and call them at Macy's Baybrook Mall. Once again, a big shout out to our sponsors, Macy's Baybrook Mall. So I have the pleasure of getting to welcome our superintendent for Clear Creek ISD. Please help me welcome Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Pierre. It's
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
So you were a traveling man, because I think I saw that you were recently in Austin.
Yes, I was in Austin actually 3 days over the past 7. And last Monday it was a big PTA rally where our Clear Creek Community Council was ever present, trying to advocate for things to help public education. On Tuesday it was a administrator and school board rally up there, also doing the same. And then yesterday was the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce and Barry Houston Economic Partnership.
So these were back to back.
Yes,
Monday,
Tuesday, and then Monday again. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So
okay.
We had a great time, and we think we're getting to see some good movement with the legislature.
Now you let's start real quick before we get into some of the meat and potatoes of this. You know, how did Dr. Smith end up as the superintendent for one of the top performing school districts in the state of Texas?
Well, that's a good adventure, right? So, I enjoyed my teaching career in Houston ISD, also was an administrator in Galveston ISD, then Pearland ISD, and then over to here, actually in Clear Creek ISD in the late 90s.
Okay.
Back over to Pearland for a couple of years, then over to Alvin as superintendent there for 7, then back over here for the past 12, and I think I'm in the greatest place on earth.
And that's, I mean, I don't want to give away the age here, but that whole trajectory spans what, 20 plus years, 25?
Yeah, let's be clear about something. I'm not going to give away your age if you don't give away mine. No, actually, it's 38 years. It's
38 years.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I started when I was 12.
When you were 12,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
So if you do the math for our viewers, and 38 plus 12, there you go. Dr. Smith, when you look at where education is today, just kind of holistically versus the start of 38 years ago, right, when you were, what are some of the key changes, or what are some of the key differences that you've seen or experienced?
Well, I think accountability has changed over time. There's certainly more assessment going on than ever before. I think Texas leads the nation in number of tests that are administered to our students. Good, bad, or indifferent, there's still some accountability involved to make sure that every child, no matter where you come from or wherever you sit in the classroom, every child must be accounted for.
So let's talk about those two key words real quick, the accountability piece. So when I hear accountability, and I think when a lot of people hear accountability, sometimes there's a quick jump to who's to blame for what, right? So if my son or daughter isn't doing what they're supposed to be, is that the counselor's job to fix? Is that the teacher's job to fix? Is that the state system? Is that and there's all these different stakeholders that take part of a child's development, right. And the school is where they spent a big chunk of their time. I think it's 70 to 80% of their time is spent in the first 18 years in the education system, right? And so when we talk about accountability, do you believe the accountability to be more evenly spread, or do you believe to have kind of centralized in a particular direction?
These are all great questions and thoughts to ponder. I'm fortunate enough to be superintendent of a school district that believes a little bit more in creative dissidence and civil disability with respect to going outside of the box. So we're not just so much hung up on who's at fault for what or what testing is being done. We have a community-based accountability system that's based on the values of our community, that relies more on getting kids ready for workforce, for college, and for life. And so that means more than just the state STAR test, and that means AP scores, that means graduation rates, that means career and technical education certifications. It's so much more than that. It means making sure that we provide opportunities for our kids to become leaders,
right,
in the schoolhouse as well as in civic organizations. So we're getting that done. So it's more of a community-based accountability system, and I'm proud of that. I think we're leading the state in those measures. Yes.
It sounds like I heard you say ready for the workforce as an overarching and very key element of this community-based accountability, right? So I had the opportunity to speak at the CCC of PTAs last week. And one of the things that I said in my speech was, as a business owner, I don't have kids myself, but I hire people, right, as a small business owner. And the other thing I shared was when people move or they're moving somewhere, the first thing that they ask about is the schools, right? There is a direct correlation between the quality of the schools and the perceived quality of the community. And I guess not just the perceived, but the actual quality of that community as well. And I think what you just talked about speaks to that. Any thoughts on that?
Well, you also said that you loved your mother. If you're not, you don't just go back to that conversation. I heard that, which was very important to say.
Sure.
But I do believe that when people relocate or move into a new community, they do their research on the school system to make sure that if they're going to move into that school district, that they're going to be putting their kids in a place where their kids are going to be loved and where their kids can reach their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And we want to make sure that we create that environment for those deliverables.
Right. When the other thought that sort of comes to mind, ready for the workforce, is that the workforce in itself, maybe not a moving target, but it's constantly in a state of evolution. I was just watching a show the other day about automation, and the whole show was just dedicated to talking about jobs that are going away because of things that are automated, and so there tends to be some folks that get a little paranoid about it and want to develop they want to freak out about it. But you go back to 40, 50, 60 years ago when people were in agriculture and in certain aspects of a workforce that over the years has been replaced. The notion is that some of the jobs that go out also get replaced by not necessarily the same job, but a different position that gets opened up.
Correct.
And so when you guys when you think about being at the forefront of a school district that prepares, how many students are in the school district?
There's over 42,000.
42,000. And every single year, how many graduate across all your high schools?
Almost 12,000 kids graduate each year.
So you're looking at, right, a machine that's outputting 12,000 individuals that you've worked for about 12 years on getting them ready for the workforce.
Right. Excuse me, I'm a little bit off. I'm a little bit overshooting my number here. It's more like 3,000. I'm thinking about total kids in the school system. But I will say this on the workforce piece. I think it's important to know, as my father, who worked at Chrysler Corporation for 40 years and started out on the assembly line, he would be the first one to tell you that the job that he did then does not need to be done by him today, and that the machinery needs to be there. He needed to learn how to code to move forward.
Right.
So we're providing opportunities for our kids to work on program coding to make sure that they can work whatever robotics and machinery. And we have a stealthy robotics program. We have opportunities for kids to become leaders by developing programs in our schools and that follow Stephen Covey's 7 habits
of highly effective teens.
Highly effective leaders and teens, and that's going great guns at our schools. And we're finding that kids, those skill sets that we need to make sure these kids have, those soft skills are being taken care of within that program.
Sure.
Because what we find out from our partners out there in the business community is that first and foremost they pretty much tell us that our kids have it in terms of the academic foundation. What they want to see is more of the soft skills, the ability to look at each other in the eye, shake each other's hand,
Sure.
work together collaboratively for the best interest of the company, and we're getting that done by implementing this program across the district. We're starting slow. We started at Falcon Pass Elementary. We've expanded that program to several other schools, and we'll continue doing that until all 44, soon to be 45 campuses will be put out there.
And those are the skills that aren't found in the STAR test, right? Which leads us to our next keyword, which is assessment. But before we talk about that, we're going to take a short little break. And if you're just now tuning in, we're talking with Dr. Smith, the superintendent for one of the top performing school districts in the entire state of Texas. And so stay tuned. We'll be right back after these short messages.
Every meeting and group event deserves to be at South Shore Harbor Resort. From extravagant to intimate, trust us to make your next business event a success. Perfectly located just 30 miles south of Houston, South Shore Harbor Resort is the largest full-service waterside resort in Southeast Texas. Mixing business with pleasure has its benefits. Our executive chef has created a delicious menu full of the best local ingredients. With upscale, casual, and poolside dining options, there is something for every appetite. Business has never been easier with such amazing choice of meeting spaces that provide a relaxed waterfront setting. Our state-of-the-art amphitheater is perfect for delivering a winning presentation. Swim, float, or paddle up to the poolside bar and enjoy the sun in our amazing 185-foot tropical oasis pool. Or take your time and lounge around in one of the beautiful private cabanas. You're going to sleep well in our luxurious, spacious, and airy rooms, furnished with plush bedding and a maritime theme. Business does not have to be all business while conferencing at South Shore Harbor Resort and Conference Center. Memories made here.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking with Dr. Smith, Dr. Greg Smith, the superintendent for Clear Creek Independent School District. Dr. Smith, we've been talking about kind of two big key things or changes that you've been in this space for 38 years. And if you're just now tuning in, he started when he was 12. Those were your words, not mine. And we talked a little bit about accountability, and the second word is assessment. You know, you've taken a stance that's a little bit outside of the box and saying our kids are not going to just be measured by a test, right? And that's a bold stance to make. That's naturally going to have some folks that may not necessarily agree, or maybe there's some red tape or some things in that field that don't allow that transition to put in some programs and initiatives in your district that is just at the click of a button. There's some processes that you have to go through and lots of open dialogue that's got to be authentic and colorful sometimes. Absolutely. In order to get to that place. What has that journey been like when we think about assessment?
So assessment in Texas started with the TABS test. We went from TABS to teams to TOS.
I took
to
the TOS.
TAX,
okay.
And you passed, right? Right? From TOS
yes.
to TAX
to
STAR. And that's where we're with the STAR test now. And it seems like every time we reach a high proficiency level, which kids have 90% of them or more pass the test on every campus, we up the rigor on each assessment. So
the STAR's been around for a little bit longer, it seems like.
Say 5 years, maybe 5 years. And it's the most rigorous of all the assessments so far. And it needs to be to ramp up to meet the needs of the workforce. What we have stated is that our students will not be defined solely based on one assessment.
Okay.
We think multiple assessments is the way to go. We think that the eyes of a teacher is critically important, and not just an autopsy exam at the end of spring, which you really can't use the results for diagnostic or prescriptive in any way, shape, or form. So we have indicated that we believe that we want our students to participate in extracurricular activities. Our community values the arts. Our community values extracurricular activities, and we want kids involved because we know the kids that are involved are much more successful than those kids that just check in and check out at the end of the day. So
where's some of that pushback?
Well, actually, we started with our PTA, and we started wherever two or more were gathered. We had coffee talk conversations around tables at elementary schools, intermediate schools, and high schools, and said, do you believe that the state assessment is the only indicator which would determine your child's success? And it was an overwhelming response saying no.
No.
There's more things. I want my kid to be happy. I want my kid to be safe. I want my kid involved in robotics. I want my kid to have a passion for reading. So we've tried to provide opportunities to make sure that those things are valued. And they are, because
Sure.
we have our own community-based accountability system, which is much more rigorous than the state's accountability system. The state gave us our first grade indicator this past fall for the efforts that we had on state assessment and other indicators last year, and Creek ISD received the letter grade of an A for excellence. Now, if I asked the local constituent, what did we get the A in, they would just say, I think it was in testing. But not all the other things that go
There's
into
all these
it.
other things that have been married into that initiative.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Whenever you mention the eyes of a teacher, I think that's a powerful statement. Being able to rely and have an additional human being it's not a scantron, right? It's not a test. It's somebody that's human, that feels, that senses, that is able to create an additional gauge on the performance of a student. And what do you think has been sort of the obviously hiring the right people, right? Having a strong workforce internally, having the right key players. You're at the top of a pyramid that also has to answer to a lot of accountability agencies, right? Namely the state. I mean, federal. I mean, there's a lot of other pieces, but you are the one that has to lead that army of people that are also leading the schools, the different initiatives for the school district. How does Dr. Smith manage all of that? And before you answer real quick, let me add that a few years ago, you were named the superintendent of the entire state of Texas.
Correct.
So there's some moves that you've executed on that were, what I understand to be the right moves, the on-target moves. How does Dr. Smith handle all that?
So we have 5,000 employees, right, and 3,000 of those which are teachers, and we recruit and retain the best, most compassionate learners that are out there. And so we think that as a result of that with students with our teachers over 180 plus days, the teachers ought to be given the credibility and the trust that they've earned over time,
Sure.
and they ought to be given the respect. So we think that their eyes, their assessments are just as important, if not more important, than a single assessment in the spring. And we trust that, and we use that in our community-based accountability measure. For 6th consecutive year, we are one of the top workplaces in the Houston metropolitan area, and we try to create the environment in which people can flourish, so that our students do, as a result of that, I think are put in places where they can be successful. And if they're not, our job is to help them get there.
Sure.
Because we know that life is chaotic at times, and so we have to have good student support counselors and good teachers and good support mechanisms and great instructional leaders on the campuses to make sure that they can both diagnose and prescribe what the children need.
School districts sometimes receive criticism from the community about being top-heavy, a huge administration staff that is too much, where that effort and energy needs to be at the campus level. Do you understand Clear Creek to be in a spot where you guys are competitive in that field in comparison to surrounding school districts, or where do you see?
Another great question. It's the first place that people go to for cuts. And in 2011, we faced a big financial shortage of having $17 million cut from our budget.
Wow.
That was a huge hit. So what we chose to do is to make sure we did not cut anybody, but we did not rehire in some strategic places, including administration. We are lean and mean. The community is getting a great bang for its buck, according to all indicators across the state. So an organization our large should have a few more administrators.
Sure.
But we're pretty flat, and
Okay.
we're getting some great mileage out of our administrative staff.
Finally, Dr. Smith, what are some topics that you think what are some hot topics right now that are affecting students, that are affecting the school district, and that you're at the forefront of?
Well, there's a couple of them. Another good question, Pierre. You're on ball today. Thank you very much. All right, so there's two things, one of which we just finished up a couple weeks ago, having the board approve the new attendance boundaries for the 2019-20 school year that will impact about 1,400 students.
That was just approved recently at
Yes,
the February the 25th school board meeting.
Correct.
Did some research.
There you go. So in that meeting, we have some changes. Those students that are becoming ninth graders are impacted, but the current students that are rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors, they're grandfathered in.
Sure.
There's no impact on
Absolutely.
them. There's no impact at the intermediate school level, with a couple exceptions. And then elementary-wise, because we're opening up Campbell Elementary School, that causes a chain reaction along League City Parkway to make sure that we at least fill a half capacity of Campbell
Sure.
Elementary. So we have a downsizing of Hall Elementary, which is overcrowded, Gilmore Elementary, which is overcrowded, and Bowerschlag Elementary, which is overcrowded. So we've done some shifting around there, really impacting 1,400 kids. It was 2,800 students, but due to our 5 public hearings, listening to the public and seeing what compelling information was out there that would make us adjust
Sure.
the recommendations. The citizens that we had on the advisory committee, entitled the School Boundary Advisory Committee, they were absolutely great, attending all the meetings, and they're the ones that made the recommendations. The board eventually approved all the recommendations as submitted by the committee, which is made up of the constituents from each region in the school district.
You get some colorful presentations sometimes at whether it's a board meeting, or somebody that makes an appointment to come see you, or somebody that's had multiple conversations with people in the school district that have maybe not gotten the answer that they were looking for, and they're like, I am going to keep going until I get to the person on top, and they end up in your office. How do you handle colorful presentations / conversations?
Well, the good thing is that we had 5 public hearings, Pierre. We didn't say that this decision is going to be made in some conference room off the side. We went out publicly, openly with the 5 comprehensive high schools over a course of several weeks, listened, and reconvened to determine whether or not we continue moving on with the same recommendations, or what, if any, tweaks need to be made. So they had 5 public hearings. This committee was meeting since mid-October.
Wow.
And just finished up its process in early February, so we need to get about notifying everybody. So by the time we get through the 5 public hearings and a lot of emails,
Sure.
500 probably, along the way, we've pretty much responded, or at least heard from every constituent that had a concern or wanted to say we support this. So it's a good process, and we've used it for quite a while now, and we always seek to try to improve the process. But it's good because the decision's made by the taxpayers.
Absolutely. What was your second?
So the second one is school safety, Pierre.
Yes.
We have been spending a lot of time since 2013 on hardening our facilities, whether it's doors, or whether it's law enforcement, or whether it's counseling. And as a result of that, this past summer, we spent time trying to pull together a committee. We did. We had, as a matter of fact, we had close to 900 parents that wanted to be part of a committee, where we only had 15 slots for them. So we randomly drew from that pot and pulled someone from each region of the district. We also had 5 students, 5 law enforcement, 5 faith-based leaders, and some teachers and staff alike. So that was something that was diligent. As a result of that, we had 39 recommendations that came out of it, and we're putting the pedal to the metal to make sure all of those are put in place, including an approval of the board for almost $8.9 million in hardening of some facilities, primarily doors and glass, all over the school district.
Sure. And I mean, you mentioned a number, a figure, but I think you would agree that most people feel like there's just not a price that you can put on protecting our kids and their safety, and so I think we definitely appreciate all the work that you're doing in the school district, and that we know how important it is to the strength of our community. And Dr. Smith, I think we could talk for a good while, but just about school safety. As a matter of fact, in May we're going to be welcoming Lee Wall, Dr. Lee Wall, with Santa Fe, and so we think there's definitely a lot of improvements to be made in that area, and what better way to be able to navigate through those conversations than by being open and having the forums and being able to say what do the constituents think, and how do we reach out to industry experts, and how do we work within our local enforcement agencies and it's really a collaborative effort in order to arrive at a place where people have that buy-in and people feel like, what, I understand it, I get it, and I'm behind it. So I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. To our folks that are just now tuning in, we're talking with Dr. Smith, the superintendent for Creek ISD. Dr. Smith, any closing comments before we go to commercial break?
No, I just wanted to mention one thing, and that is that we've been having some great support from our both legislators, Representative Dr. Greg Bonin and Senator Taylor.
Yes.
They've both authored bills dealing with safety allotment funds to allow school districts to access funds to help with mental health.
Is that a co-author bill? I saw something from Larry Taylor.
It's more of a compatible bill. So
okay.
He has Senate Bill 11, and Senator Taylor has Senate Bill 11, and Representative Bonin has House Bill 1754.
Okay.
Taylor's bill is probably a little bit more comprehensive, while Bonin's bill deals strictly with the safety allotment.
Okay.
Taylor's bill is more of a comprehensive school safety training, etc.
Sure.
So,
sure.
But we're absolutely grateful for their support, and actually, Dr. Bonin attended most of our school safety meetings during the summer, and Senator Taylor had a representative there, so we're very, very appreciative of their efforts.
And I think we're going to be welcoming both of them to the show at some point in the future. So thank you again, Dr. Smith, for spending some time with us. If you have additional questions, you can go to ccisd.net, right?
Yeah.
And get connected with any department that you'd like to get more information about. And Dr. Smith, thank you again for joining us today for On Air with Pierre.
Thank you, Pierre.
We're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we're talking with Bridget Baer of South Shore Harbor Resort and Conference Center. Stay tuned and tell your friends, reshare. We'll be right back. Hello, my friends. You and I have a date at 11 o'clock every single Wednesday, so you can tune in and watch my show, On Air with Pierre, where I interview local celebrities and the movers and shakers of the Bay Area, Houston. So be sure and tune in to On Air with Pierre, Wednesdays at 11 o'clock.